Yeah, that's interesting. I think my go-to whenever we're passing material to each other, the triggers for me are nature, geology. I love things that have to do with landscape, and elegies. So I love sort of the quieter poem. I love what you said about the social though too, because I think even poems about, you know, personal poems, first person poems, they have to have some kind of extension to them. But
yeah, and I agree with that, except that I don't know that it's always the social for me that the extension has to be, or they, to me, they just have to be kind of aware of. They can't be mired in their own sort of personal bubble to where you feel that the poet doesn't have a sense of being part of a whole. But I think you can have the sense that the poet is writing as with the consciousness of the whole, without that whole being directly in the poem. Mm-hmm. Maybe that comes from, I don't know, I like some humor, some sense of irony, where it's not just lyrical confessionalism, but I'm fine with confessionalism, but it needs to have, I think, some sort of edge, some complicating factor, so that a smooth, brief lyric poem sometimes works for me, but it's less likely to sort of sink its claws in than something that's, I don't know.
Something that has some jag.
Yeah, some jag, yeah, something, yeah, exactly.
it's surprising too when you read so many submissions, how poems that are goodly odd work well.
We've been getting more and more of those, I think. Goodly odd poems. The general current seems to be that you need to do something else. There needs to do something more disjunctive than either just narrative or just writing about the personal in a confessional way. But I don't know. I think there are ways to complicate both of them. I mean, I don't think we'll ever be rid of narrative. Yeah. And I don't think we'll ever be rid of writing about from our personal experience. So the question is, what is it that, I mean, I guess we talked a little bit about that, but just sort of elements that somehow complicate those can make, I mean, in some ways it comes down to how much we read, and that if something makes it stand out, that that's good.
I know when I'm reading, I'm thinking about you guys, and there's sort of a sense of what you guys might like, and whether or not, if I like a poem, I'm always also thinking, yes, I like this, but will the rest of the group like it, and then ultimately, will Spear like this? And I think that what you were saying earlier, about then you put that aside and you try to approach each poem sort of with a fresh take. I do that too, absolutely, but it's an interesting line to walk, because here, we might have a stack of poems that we love that as a group wouldn't make it to the next level.
Although I don't know if that happens that often. I feel like if someone loves it, a lot of times we end up, I mean, I feel like I can be made to come around and to pass into Spear, but of course, I mean, Spear is the ultimate, yeah, I mean, he chooses, so in some ways that takes some of the weight off of us, because we can...
Yeah, we get to thrash about with stuff that we love. I can think of things offhand in discussions that we've had before where I definitely know how I'm trying to pitch something. Like, okay, I know Katie's gonna like this one. Jessica might be a hard sell here, or vice versa, and there's some poems I pitched that even, and this is interesting for me too, because sometimes I feel like not the best reader, but when there are times too when there are things that even if I'm not completely head over heels in love with it, I understand, and sometimes maybe it's a day, maybe it's something else. And this is why I like our system, because we're so rigorous about reading these things that we know when something should get passed, regardless of whether or not we have a kind of like instantaneous wildfire kind of love for it or not.
I mean, I think there's no denying that when we see someone's published in journals that we know and recognize, that we sort of do. I mean, this is, we do stop and think, oh, you know, I mean, I think that's just human nature to do that, but at the same time, I think we're pretty good about, I mean, I'm sort of conscious of trying to get younger writers in the journal, so it's not going to make me look less closely if a cover letter has fewer publications or publications that I don't necessarily that I don't know about those journals, but
I think that's the same for everyone. Anyone who has read Slush Pile for any literary journal understands that if you see publication credits for journals that you recognize, that will just,
or that you particularly like.
Yeah, or that you're envious of. Then you'll kind of, like, your attention will kind of prick up. But one of the injunctions that I heard, from Spear and from others when I first started doing the internship stuff here and started reading for the magazine was that one of the things that TMR prizes above many other things is the inclusion and publication of new talent and of people who are emerging into the literary scene, and sometimes, and I can remember a couple of times when I've been thrilled to pass along someone who has not been published anywhere.
I also think that for me, when I see a cover letter that has publications on it, to me that just signals that the person's been writing for a long time. Because all of us are writers, and we all go through the process of sending out our work, and my understanding of that process is just that it takes a lot of time. If you continue to be dedicated to writing that and to publishing, if that's something that you want to do, that eventually that starts to happen as you get a better sense of your own style, as you get a better sense of what journals, where your poems should be. So if I see that on a cover letter, one reason that I pay attention is just because it tells me that the person is an experienced writer. But again, it's they're just sort of different enthusiasms. I think above all, the best messages for us to tell the audience in the world is that we are actively looking to publish work. We're on a sort of a mission to discover good poetry.
Our last Editor's Prize, not this year, but the one before, all three of our winners it was their first publications. So, I mean, that was pretty exciting. And so that should be something encouraging to young writers. And we are actually just starting to accept submissions for the next year's Editor's Prize. And we all read for those.
We'll be reading.
Well.
Send us your work.
Right.
We can't wait to read your work.
So yeah, I hope that this has sort of elucidated some of the process here. And thanks for all your hard work.